The night was cold and silent. The streets were almost empty. Streetlights flickered, and the wind whispered through the broken windows of old buildings. A black luxury car slowly moved through a poor neighborhood. Inside the car sat Zayan Malik, a billionaire businessman known for his power and pride. He had just finished a late business meeting in the city. Now he was heading back to his mansion. He hated driving through this side of town. It was dirty, dark, and full of bad memories. Suddenly the car made a strange noise. "Sir," said the driver, "something's wrong with the engine. We need to stop for a few minutes." Zayan looked annoyed. "Fix it quickly," he said, adjusting his watch. The car pulled over near an old alley filled with broken crates, garbage bags, and rats running between trash cans. Zayan stepped out of the car for fresh air. His bodyguard, Imran, stood close by, but then Zayan stopped. He saw something, or someone, near the trash bin. At first he thought it was just a pile of old clothes, but then it moved slightly. He stepped closer. There, among torn plastic bags and cardboard boxes, was a little girl, maybe 10 years old. She was curled up in a ball, hugging her knees. Her clothes were dirty and torn. Her face was thin, her cheeks hollow. Her arms had small bruises and her feet were bare. She was sleeping in the garbage. Zayan froze. "Is she alive?" he whispered. Imran stepped beside him and frowned. "She's just another street kid, sir. We shouldn't get involved." But Zayan didn't move. He couldn't stop staring. There was something about her. Not just her condition, but her expression. Even in sleep, she looked afraid, like she had seen things no child should ever see. Zayan gently knelt down and touched her shoulder. She flinched and opened her eyes. Her eyes were large and brown. She didn't cry, she didn't scream. She just stared at him. Then she softly asked, "Have you seen my mother?" Zayan was taken aback. He expected her to beg for food or money. But this girl, all she wanted was her mother. "No," he replied, gently. "What's your name?" She looked down. "Ira." "Where do you live?" She pointed around but didn't say anything. Imran stepped forward. "Sir, let's go. The car's almost ready. This isn't your problem." But Zayan didn't stand. He looked at the girl again. Her skin was cold. She was wearing only a thin shirt in the freezing night. He took off his coat and wrapped it around. "Have you eaten anything?" he asked. Ira nodded slowly. "Yesterday, I found a piece of bread." Zayan's heart felt heavy. He couldn't remember the last time he skipped a meal. This girl had survived on crumbs. He stood up. "Wait, here?" He walked to a nearby bakery that was still open. He bought some warm bread, a juice box, and a small cake. When he returned, Ira was sitting up, hugging his coat around herself. She didn't say thank you, but her eyes said everything. She took the food and began eating slowly, like she was afraid might disappear. Zayan watched in silence. "Where's your mother, Ira?" he asked again. She looked at the sky. "She said she'd come back. She told me to wait. That was many nights ago." Zayan felt a strange pain in his chest. This girl had been waiting, sleeping in garbage while her mother was gone, lost, hiding. Dead? He didn't know, but he wanted to find out. "Imran," Zayan said firmly, "we're taking her with us." "What? Sir, this could be dangerous. People might think—" Zayan raised a hand. "We're taking her." Imran went silent. Zayan turned back to Ira. "Do you want to come with me? I can give you a warm place to sleep. You'll be safe." Ira looked at him. She didn't nod. She didn't smile. She just asked, "Will my mother be there?" Zayan didn't know what to say, but he answered softly, "We'll try to find her." Ira slowly stood up. Her legs were weak. Zayan helped her into the car. As they drove away, he looked back at the place where she had been sleeping. Garbage, rats, darkness. Now she sat beside him, still quiet, still scared, but no longer alone. And in his heart, Zayan knew this was not just a small act of kindness. This was the beginning of something much deeper. Zayan's car moved slowly through the city streets. The lights from passing buildings lit up Ira's tired face. She sat quietly beside him, holding the half-eaten bread close like it was treasure. Zion glanced at her again and again. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just looked out the window like she was waiting for something or someone. "Do you remember where you live?" Zion asked gently. Ira shook her head. "Not really." "Try to think. Do you remember any street names? Building numbers?" She thought for a moment. "There was a red door, and Mama sang a song at night. That's all I remember." Zion nodded slowly. It wasn't much. Just a red door and a song. But it was something. When they reached his home, a big modern mansion, Ira hesitated at the gate. Her eyes widened as she saw the tall walls, shiny floors, and bright lights. "You live here?" she whispered. Zion smiled softly. "Yes. Just for tonight. This is your home too." Inside, the housekeeper, Anaya, looked shocked to see the dirty, barefoot girl beside her billionaire boss. "Who is this child, sir?" she asked. "She's a guest. Treat her kindly," Zion said. Anaya nodded and quickly brought a clean towel, warm water, and new clothes from the storeroom. Ira was taken to a guest room where she slowly washed her hands and face. When she came out wearing fresh clothes, she looked like a new person, but her eyes were still sad, still searching. Zion asked the cook to prepare a light dinner. Ira ate quietly, carefully. She was not used to full plates or warm food. After dinner, Zion sat across from her. "Do you know your full name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Mama called me Ira. I don't know the rest." "Do you remember your birthday?" She shook her head. Zion leaned back in his chair. This was hard. She had no last name, no birthday, no home. She was like a ghost child, lost in the cracks of a cold world. "Do you remember your mother's name?" Ira blinked. "Mama said her name was Maya." Zion froze for a moment. Maya. That name echoed in his memory like an old song. It felt familiar, but he couldn't place it. "She was a singer," Ira added. "She sang on the streets. People gave her coins. Sometimes she sang for me when I couldn't sleep." Zion nodded slowly. "And one day, she didn't come back?" Ira's voice dropped to a whisper. "Yes. She told me to hide. She said men were coming. She kissed my forehead and ran. I waited, but she never came back." Zion felt his heart ache. What kind of world leaves a child in garbage while no one notices? Imran, his bodyguard, entered the room quietly. "Sir, are you sure about this? The media might say things. People might think she's just a child," Zion interrupted firmly. "And she needs help. That's all that matters. Right now." Imran nodded and stepped back. Later that night, Zion sat alone in his study. He looked at the security footage from earlier. The camera on the nearby bakery had caught something. In the video, Ira was seen walking alone into the alley. But just before she laid down, a dark figure could be seen in the background, watching her from the shadows. The person didn't move, just stood there, watching. Zion zoomed in, but the figure's face was hidden. His eyes narrowed. "Who was that?" he whispered. Was someone following her? Was she in danger? And why did the name Maya feel so familiar? He opened an old folder from his office cabinet. A charity report from years ago. Photos of poor families they had once helped. One picture caught his eye. A woman with long hair holding a baby in her arms. She stood in front of a small red. Dort below the photo, the name read, Maya Essie Singer. Local resistance to land. Zayan's fingers froze on the page. This can't be a coincidence. He looked again at Ira's sleeping face on the camera screen. She looked just like the baby in the photo. Same eyes, same smile. His heart skipped a beat. Could this be the same woman? The same child? He had no answers. But one thing was clear. He sat alone in his dark study, the only light coming from the screen in front of him. The photo of Maya stared back at him. A tired young woman, holding her baby. standing in front of a red door. The same red Dr. Ira had mentioned, the same woman Era called Mama. The photo was dated 7 years ago, part of a charity report when Zion's company tried to buy land in a poor neighborhood. Maya's name had come up during a dispute. She was one of the few people who refused to sell her home. She was bold, brave, a singer who fought for her people. And now, her daughter was asleep under Zion's roof. Zion leaned back in his chair and whispered to himself, "What happened to you, Maya?" The next morning, Era woke up to the smell of warm bread and eggs. Anaya, the housekeeper, smiled at her gently. "Come, little one, eat while it's hot." Era ate slowly, politely. She looked more alive today, her cheeks a little less hollow, her eyes more open, but she still didn't smile. She still didn't talk much. Zion joined her after breakfast, sat across the table and said softly, "Do you want to help me today?" Ira looked confused. "Help with what?" "We're going to find the red door," he said. Her eyes lit up. "Really?" He nodded. "But we'll need your memory." Zion and Ira, along with Imran, drove to the old side of the city. Ira looked out the window, searching carefully. Street after street, corner after corner. Then suddenly she sat up straight. "There!" she shouted. "That way! The small road with the green shop." Imran turned the car as instructed. At the end of the narrow lane, they found it. A small, broken house with a red door. Era jumped out of the car and ran toward it. Zion followed. The place looked abandoned. The windows were broken, the door hung loosely from one side. Inside there was only dust, old clothes, and a few torn papers. Era stood frozen. "This was our home," she whispered. "Mama sang here." She slowly stepped inside. There was a small corner where a blanket still lay on the floor. A child's shoe sat nearby. A broken guitar string hung from a nail in the wall. Zion watched in silence. "Mama said we'd leave here one day." "To a better place," Era whispered. "But she never came back." Zion knelt beside her and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I promise, Era," he said. "We'll find out what happened." Zion began asking around the neighborhood. Most people had left after the land was bought and turned into shops, but an old tea seller still remembered Maya. "Yes, I remember the singer lady," he said. "She was strong, never begged, always smiling." "Do you know where she went?" Zion asked. The man shook his head. "One night there was a fire. A group of men came, maybe from the land company. Maya disappeared after that. Some say she ran away, others say worse." Zion's stomach turned. His company had been the one buying that land. Had someone in his name hurt Maya? Back in the car, he sat quietly, lost in thought. Suddenly, Mira said something. "There was a man," she whispered. "He used to come at night. Mama would tell me to hide. She was scared of him." Zion's heart pounded. "What kind of man?" "He wore black clothes and had a deep voice. Mama called him Faiz's uncle." Zion's hands tightened into fists. Faiz Faizan Malik, his old business partner, the man who handled the land deals, the man Zion had stopped trusting years ago. Could it be? He called Imran. "Check all our land deal records from 7 years ago. Look for anything signed by Faiz or approved without my notice." Imran nodded. "On it, sir." Zion looked at Era. She was staring out the window again, holding an old bracelet she had found in the broken house. A bracelet with a small silver music note. Zion took it gently. He remembered something. Years ago, during a press event in that same poor neighborhood, a singer had performed. She had long hair and sang with her eyes closed, lost in the melody. She had worn this bracelet. It was Maya. Zion stood still. The singer he once watched, the woman whose home was destroyed under his company's name, was Maya, and her child was sitting beside him now. His voice was barely a whisper. "What did we do?" Zion sat in his office that night, staring at the old contract files spread across his table. Papers, signatures, stamped documents. all part of the land project from 7 years ago. And there, buried under the pile, was a document with a signature that stopped him cold. Faizan Malik, his ex-business partner, a land purchase approval with Maya's neighborhood listed. But something was wrong. Zayan looked closer. The document said all residents agreed to vacate. It had his company's stamp, but not his signature. His voice turned cold. Imran, get Faizan's full project history, now. Imran didn't argue. He had also seen what was happening. This wasn't a mistake, Zayan said. Faizan used my name. He pushed people out, and Maya, she was in his way. Meanwhile, in another room, little Era sat quietly on the edge of the bed holding her bracelet. She looked around the room, so clean and big, so different from the broken house she used to sleep in. She missed her mother, her voice, her songs, her soft hands. Ira closed her eyes and hummed a tune her mother used to sing at bedtime. A soft knock came on the door. Anaya, the housekeeper, stepped in with warm milk. "You're safe here, child," she said with a kind smile. "Mr. Zayan will take care of you." Ira didn't speak. She just gave a small nod, but deep inside, she was scared. What if her mother was never coming back? What if the man in black, Faiz's uncle, had taken her away forever? The next morning, Zayan went to visit an old friend, Detective Kamal. Kamal had retired recently, but he knew every hidden corner of the city and had helped Zayan before. Zayan handed him Maya's photo and explained everything. "I think someone forced her to disappear," Zayan said. "I think Faizan had something to do with it." Kamal studied the photo. "I remember this woman," he said. "There was a case about her, reported missing, but it was closed quickly." "Why?" Zayan asked. "No evidence," Kamal said. "The area was already cleared. People too afraid to talk. The file was marked as no foul play, but between you and me. It smelled bad, like a cover-up." Zayan's jaw clenched. He had trusted Faizan, shared his empire with him, and now it looked like Faizan had destroyed lives behind his back. "I want that file reopened," Zayan said. Kamal nodded. "Give me 1 day." Back at home, Ira was drawing something with colored pencils Anaya had given her. She drew a house with a red door, a smiling woman standing in front, a little girl with pigtails holding her hand. Anaya looked over her shoulder. "Is that you and your mama?" Ira smiled faintly. "Yes, we were going to live in a real home one day." Anaya softly touched her head. "You will again, sweet girl." Just then the house phone rang. Zayan picked it up. It was Kamal. "Zayan, we found something." Zayan drove straight to the old storage facility where police records were kept. Kamal handed him a dusty file. "Maya's case. Look at this," he said, pointing to a note in the margins. "The night she went missing. Neighbors reported seeing a black SUV without plates. No license, no report ever filed." "And?" Zayan asked. "The SUV was registered under a dummy company, owned by Faizan Malik." Zayan's heart dropped. It was no longer just suspicion. It was truth. Faizan had something to do with Maya's disappearance. But why? Zayan flipped through more documents. In a corner of the file, stapled separately, was a photo from a nearby ATM camera. Blurred, grainy, but enough to see. Maya, running, holding Era's hand. Behind her, 2 men in black. One of them had a scar on his right cheek. Zayan leaned in closer. He had seen that face before, years ago, in a company security report. Faizan had hired private enforcers during some land disputes. One of them had a scar, just like this. Zayan stood up, his voice shaking. "We need to find this man. He's the key." Back at home, Era had fallen asleep on the couch. Zayan gently lifted her in his arms and placed her in bed. She whispered in her sleep, "Mama, don't leave me again." Zayan looked at her with soft eyes. He couldn't change the past, but he could protect her now, and he would. He sat beside her bed all night, waiting for morning, because when the sun rose, he would confront Faizan. Zayan stood in front of a tall, Building. A luxury apartment tower in the city's most expensive area. This was where Faizan Malik lived now, the man who had once been his closest friend, and now, maybe, his greatest mistake. He took a deep breath, fists clenched, heart heavy. It was time to get answers. 10 years earlier, Zayan and Faizan were young businessmen, hungry, ambitious, and unstoppable. They started from nothing, worked day and night, and built an empire together. But something changed. Faizan became greedy. He didn't care about rules, people, or pain, only power and profit. Zayan pulled back from dirty deals. Faizan didn't, and now, it seemed, a child's mother had paid the price. Zayan rang the bell. Faizan opened the door, dressed in a robe, holding a glass of wine. "Well, look who it is," he said with a fake smile. "Did the king finally visit the ghost of his past?" "I'm not here for jokes," Zayan said coldly. "I came for the truth." Faizan raised an eyebrow. "Truth about what?" Zayan stepped inside without asking. "About Maya." For a moment, Faizan's smile vanished. "Maya," he said, pretending to think. The singer, pretty voice, tragic story." Zayan's eyes darkened. "You forced her out. You made her disappear." Faizan laughed. "Disappear? Come on, Zayan. People vanish every day in this city, especially when they fight the wrong battles." "You sent your men after her," Zayan said. "I saw the file, the scarred man, the fake SUV company, all connected to you." Faizan's smile faded. He placed his glass down slowly. "She was making trouble," he said. "That land was worth millions. We gave everyone money. She refused, kept making noise. I had to calm her down." Zayan stepped forward, voice rising. "Where is she now?" Faizan looked him in the eye. "I don't know. She ran. My men chased her, yes, but she got away. That's all I know." "You're lying. Believe what you want," Faizan said, shrugging. "But let me give you some advice. Don't dig too deep. The past is already buried." Zayan stared at him in disbelief. "There was a child. You left her on the streets." Faizan's tone turned cruel. "Not my problem. Maybe she was just bad luck. Just like her mother." Without thinking, Zayan punched him. Faizan fell back, holding his jaw, blood dripping from his lip. "You're a monster," Zayan said, shaking. "And I'll expose you." Faizan's eyes narrowed. "You think the world cares about one poor woman and her kid? I own half the media. You try to fight me, you'll lose everything." Zayan turned to leave. "Then I'll lose everything." Back in his car, Zayan sat in silence. His hands were still shaking. Imran looked at him through the rearview mirror. "Sir? Did he confess?" Zayan nodded. "Enough to know he's guilty. But he's hiding something more." "What now?" "We go deeper," Zayan said. "Maya is out there. I can feel it. We just have to find her." That night, Zayan returned home. Ira was sitting by the window looking at the stars. She turned as he entered. "Did you find anything about Mama?" Zayan knelt beside her. "Not yet, but I promise you, Ira, I won't stop until I do." She looked at him, her eyes full of trust. "Do you believe she's alive?" Zayan paused, then gently said, "Yes, I do." He couldn't explain why, but something in his heart told him Maya was still out there, waiting, hiding, maybe in fear. He took out the photo from the old file, the one where Maya stood in front of the red door, and showed it to Ara. "Is this her?" Ara's face lit up. "Yes, that's Mama." Zayan smiled. "Then we're one step closer." The next morning, Kamal called. "I think we found something." A woman matching Maya's description was seen years ago in a women's shelter, far from the city. She used a fake name, disappeared again after a few months. Zayan stood up fast. "Where is this shelter?" "I'm sending you the address. Now," Kamal said. "But listen, if she ran, she had a reason. Be careful, she might still be afraid." Zayan looked at Ira, sitting quietly on the couch. "I'll bring her home," he whispered. The sun hadn't fully risen when Zayan's car rolled out of the city. The road was quiet, The sky painted with soft orange and blue. Era was asleep, in the back seat, hugging her bracelet tightly. Zayan sat beside her, thinking deeply. Every mile brought him closer to the truth, and closer to the pain Maya had lived with for years. Imran drove with focused silence. He knew this journey wasn't just about finding a missing woman. It was about healing a broken little girl's heart. After 3 hours of travel, they reached a quiet village. It was far from the noise of the city, tucked between dusty roads and small green fields. At the edge of the village stood a small old building with a worn-out sign, Hope Women's Shelter. Zayan and Imran stepped out. Ira looked up at the place, nervous but hopeful. Inside, they were greeted by a kind, elderly woman named Sister Mariam. Zayan showed her Maya's photo. Her eyes widened. "I remember her," she said softly. "She came here almost 7 years ago. Called herself Nadia. She had a little girl with her, sweet child." Zayan nodded. "Ira." Sister Mariam looked at the child. "Oh my goodness. You've grown so much." Ira gave a small smile. Zayan asked carefully, "What happened here? Why did she leave?" Sister Mariam took a deep breath. "She arrived one night, barefoot and crying. Said someone was following her. She was scared, wounded, but didn't talk much." "Did she ever say who was chasing her?" "She only said this: 'He wears black and wants my voice to disappear forever.'" Zayan clenched his fists. "That had to be Faizan's man, the one with the scar." Sister Mariam continued. "She stayed here for 5 months. She worked in the kitchen, sang for the children sometimes. But then one morning she was gone." "Gone?" Zayan asked. "Just like that?" She left a note, said, "If I stay, they'll find me and they'll hurt her too. I have to disappear to protect my daughter." Era's eyes filled with tears. "She left me. To keep me safe?" she whispered. "Sister," Mariam nodded gently. "She loved you more than life itself, child." Zayan's voice was low. "Do you still have the note?" Sister Mariam walked to an old drawer and returned with a folded paper slightly torn. Zayan opened it. The handwriting was soft and round. "To whoever finds this, please take care of my Ira. I'm not running from my daughter. I'm running from danger. I will come back when the shadows go away. Tell her I love her more than anything." Maya Era burst into tears. Zayan pulled her close. "You're not alone, Era," he said. "Your mother never stopped loving you." Sister Mariam then said something strange. 2 years after she left, someone came looking for her. A man. Said he was a friend. He showed me a photo, but it wasn't Maya. It was a different woman." Zayan frowned. "Do you remember what he looked like?" "He was tall, scar on his face." Zayan's eyes narrowed. "That's him. He was still hunting her. He scared me," Sister Mariam said. "I told him I hadn't seen anyone, but I think he knew she had been here. I think he's still searching." Zayan stood up. "We have to find her before he does." Sister Mariam hesitated, then said, "There's one more thing. She used to hum a song every night. I still remember it. It sounded like a message." She hummed the melody softly. Era gasped. "That's Mama's favorite lullaby, but it's missing a line." Zayan looked at Era. "Do you know the missing line?" Era closed her eyes, thinking. Then she said, "Where the birds touch the sky, and the wind smells like roses." Sister Mariam nodded. "Yes, that was it." Zayan paused. That sounded like a location, a hidden message. He remembered something. In the city outskirts, there was a hill known as Rose Wind Peak, a place filled with wild rose plants where birds gathered in spring. Maya used to sing about it in her charity concerts. Could she be hiding there? That night, Zayan looked at Era. "I think we know where your mother might be," Era whispered. "Then let's go, please." Zayan nodded, but he knew they had to. Be careful, because if Faizan's men were still looking for Maya, and she was still hiding, finding her could bring danger back into her life. They had to move fast. And smart. The wind blew gently as Zayan's car climbed the narrow hill road toward Rose Wind Peak. The sky above was cloudy, and the scent of wild roses floated through the air. Era sat beside Zayan, eyes wide with hope and fear. She clutched the old bracelet tighter than ever, the only piece left of her mother. Imran, driving ahead in a second car, kept watch. Zayan had warned him, "Faizan's men might be out there. We can't let them reach her first." This wasn't just a search anymore. This was a race. When they reached the peak, the sun was setting. The sky was painted in soft pink and orange. The place was beautiful, quiet, full of rose bushes and surrounded by birds resting in the trees. It was the kind of place someone would choose to hide if they were tired of the world. They walked, carefully looking around. At first there was nothing, only bushes, birds, and wind. Then Era stopped. She pointed ahead. "Look, that house." Half hidden behind trees and overgrown flowers stood a small wooden cabin. The roof was old, the door worn, but there was smoke rising gently from the chimney. Someone was living there. Zayan took Era's hand. "Stay close." They walked to the door slowly. He knocked once. No answer. He knocked again. Finally, the door creaked open, just a little. A woman stood behind it, covered in a shawl. Her face was tired, pale, and at first, afraid. But when her eyes landed on Ira, she froze. Tears filled her eyes instantly. "Mama?" Ira whispered. The woman gasped. "Ira?" The door opened fully, and for the first time in 7 years, Maya dropped to her knees and hugged her daughter so tight, like she would never let go again. "My baby. My sweet baby." Ira cried and held her tightly. "I found you, Mama. I found you." Zayan stood quietly, watching them. His heart was full. This moment was worth everything. They sat inside the cabin. Maya gave Era warm milk and gently brushed her hair with shaking hands. Zayan spoke softly. "Why did you never come back?" Maya looked down. "Because they never stopped looking for me, Faizan's men. They chased me for years. I changed names, I hid in different shelters, but somehow they always found me. And here, no one comes here," Maya said. "This place was in one of my childhood songs. I thought, if I stayed quiet and alone, maybe they would." "Forget. But your daughter was out there," Zayan said. Maya's eyes filled with guilt. "I thought she'd be safer without me. I left her at the shelter. I used to write letters I never sent. Cried every night." Zayan's voice was calm. "She never forgot you." Ira hugged her mother again. "I knew you loved me. I waited." Suddenly, there was a noise outside, the crunch of tires on gravel. Zayan stood up fast and looked. Through the window, a black SUV, his face turned serious. "Imran," he called through the walkie-talkie. "They're here," Imran's voice crackled back. "2 men, armed, I'll distract them." Zayan turned to Maya. "Take Ira and hide in the back. I'll handle this." Maya nodded quickly and took Ira's hand. Zayan stepped out of the house. 2 men in black were walking up the path, and one of them had a scar across his cheek. The same man from the ATM photo. He smiled coldly. Well, you found the flower before we did." Zayan didn't blink. "Leave now or this ends badly." The man chuckled. "You think money scares me? We don't want trouble, just the woman." "She's under my protection now," Zayan said, his voice steel. "You'll have to go through me." The second man reached for his jacket, but before he could pull anything out, Imran tackled him from behind. A fight broke out. Zayan punched the scar-faced man hard, sending him flying to the ground. Imran quickly tied both men's hands with rope from the car. They called the police. Within minutes, a patrol team arrived from the nearby town. Kamal had already warned them. The men were arrested. Zayan watched as they were taken away in handcuffs. Finally, the danger was over. Back inside, Maya hugged Ira tightly. "You're safe now," Zayan said. "And this time, it's over for good." Maya looked up at him. "Thank you for finding me, for protecting her." Zayan smiled softly. "She saved me too, Maya. More than you know, Ira looked up. Can we go home now? Maya nodded, tears in her eyes. Yes, baby. Let's go home. That night, they left the cabin, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. For the first time in years, Maya walked into the city, not as a victim, but as a mother ready to rebuild her life. And Zion, he walked beside her, not just as a billionaire, but as the man who helped put a broken family back together. 3 weeks later, the city looked different to Maya, not because the buildings had changed, but because she had. She wasn't hiding anymore. She wasn't running anymore. And for the first time in years, she woke up every morning next to her daughter, without fear. Zayan had arranged a small house for Maya and Ira, in a quiet, peaceful neighborhood. It wasn't a mansion, it wasn't filled with luxury, but to Maya, it was home. Ira now went to school every day, wearing clean clothes, holding her mother's hand. She was always smiling, the sadness in her eyes slowly fading. At night, Maya sang her lullabies again, not from memory, but from her soul. And every time she did, Ira whispered, I love you, Mama. Zion visited often, not as a billionaire, not as a hero, but as family. Sometimes he'd help with groceries. Other times he'd listen as Maya talked about the past, the things she had locked inside for so long. One evening, Maya invited him for dinner. Ira helped decorate the table with flowers. As they sat down to eat, Maya looked at Zion and said softly, You changed my life. Zion shook his head. You saved your own life, Maya. I just helped you believe it was still worth saving. Maya smiled. The first real smile he had seen from her, but not everything was over. The news about Faizan's arrest had spread. He was now facing trial for multiple crimes, land fraud, intimidation, and attempted harm. His empire was falling. Some media tried to twist the story, showing Maya as a scandal from the past. But Zayan used his power to silence them. He held a press conference one day. Standing in front of cameras, he spoke clearly. Maya is not a shameful secret. She is a survivor, a mother, a fighter, and from now on, she will never be silenced. Again, the crowd applauded and the world began to listen. Weeks passed. One morning, Ira ran into the kitchen with excitement. Mama, look! She held a flyer, charity music night, featuring special guest, Maya. Zion had arranged everything. It was time for Maya to sing again, not in hiding, not in fear, but on stage, proud, strong, and free. The night of the concert, the hall was full. People from all walks of life, rich, poor, old, young, came to listen. When Maya stepped on stage holding Ira's hand, a silence fell across the room. She stood at the mic, took a deep breath, and looked out at the crowd. Name is Maya, she said, voice calm. And for years I sang to survive. Tonight I sing to live. The piano began to play, and she sang the lullaby, the one she had sung to Ira since she was a baby. Where the birds touch the sky, and the wind smells like roses, I'll find you again, no matter what closes. Her voice was soft, broken, but beautiful. The room was filled with tears. Zayan sat in the front row, eyes glistening, and when she finished, the audience stood. A standing ovation. Tears. Applause. Love. Maya smiled, truly, deeply, because this time, she wasn't singing alone. Epilogue. Ira grew up with her mother by her side. She never forgot the nights in the garbage, the pain, the loneliness. But she remembered something stronger. The moment her life changed, when one kind man saw her, sleeping and chose not to walk away. Zion remained in their lives, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Because sometimes family is not just who we're born to. It's who stands beside us in the darkest hour. And as for Maya, she sang, she healed, she lived. Because sometimes even from the trash a rose can still bloom.